Are you familiar with the book The Status Game by Will Stor
I'm
at
not.
all?
No.
So, super interesting book. And I probably gravitate towards it to a degree. I really like the work of the psychologist Carl Jung. A big theme of his is like, yes, you are a socialized human being that comes with morality, all that, right? But there's also this dark side to you, right? There's this dark side to you that can commit atrocities. And actually, the way you keep the monster at bay is to actually just embrace it, accept it, let it have its say, and then go on with it. Like use the use the wisdom that it's supposed to give you and channel it in a good manner. And so we're talking about status, not that it's all about that, but in the book, he kind of posits that every human in the history of mankind has been driven to do things that will increase their status.
Mhm.
And it's actually not something to run away from, nor is it anything immoral. It just is. A desire just is, and it just totally depends on how you use that desire going forward. So it's like, it's kind of one of those books that like opened me up to like, why do I want to do a podcast? Well, I do genuinely enjoy talking to people, but I think also deep down, like, I do want people to know who I am. That's just something innate within me. And it's not something I have to run for. It's something I can embrace as long as I'm known for bringing value and, kind of channeling that energy into something that will produce positivity for myself and others. So,
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, look, the value is such a key in that whole piece. It's like 100%. Like, it's not a bad thing. And I know I grew up in a place where it was you don't talk about yourself, you keep yourself humble. And I look, I've subscribed to that and I continue to do so. However, the more people that know about you, whether it's Andrew, myself, my company, it's the more people you can help. So, having that, there's a reason that some people have that on stage persona. That's not me. Like, unfortunately or fortunately, it depends who's looking through the lens. Yeah, this is
sure.
what you get on the stage, off the stage. I just don't have that many layers to me. It's just JM. But I know why people do have those on screen personas because it
Sure.
attracts them. And then you actually talk to them off stage and they're super introverted or they don't really want to talk. But that's why, is because you, by bringing people in, they're able to bring value to them. So it's a fascinating subject, brother.
Yeah. Gary Vee, which I'm sure everyone on the planet knows who that guy is. I really admire him because I feel like I've watched videos where he kind of owns up to that, where he kind of owns up to like, listen, guys, like I do play a bit of a character. Most of it is very authentic, but he's like, I do kind of embellish and I will yell more and do all this and that. And so I think it's really interesting when people kind of own up to it and just say, yeah, like there is a certain character I'm playing. Because I know it gets results for the things that like I want to see in the world. And luckily for humanity, Gary's big thing is kindness, empathy, all of that. So it's like I don't care if you're a totally different person on stage, if those are the values that you're trying to push and trying to augment in others. It's like I don't care how different you are. Like it all depends on kind of like your motives, your desire, and what you really want to get out of things.
100%. Like, your intention is what I always talk about, and that is, it's fascinating. He is such a polarizing figure, but what most
It is.
don't realize, they don't realize the amount of work he put in to arrive at this place of notoriety. I mean, we're talking crazy amounts of hours, very little recognition for like almost the better part of a decade, that he would answer everyone and just keep sending value out to the world. And look, it paid off, obviously. Clearly it
Yeah.
has. But you know what? Do you think when he was grinding sending back tweets at 3 a.m. and he's got to wake up and do that. That's not glorious, but most people aren't willing to put that work in. So that's the part that I love to share about him is I don't know him personally, I've never met him,
Yeah.
but that's the part I've gravitated to because when I saw that persona, yeah, it's not really my cup of tea, but I can totally get behind the backstory of who he is, how he arrived at the place he got to, because that is inspirational.
Yeah. So kind of, I don't know what to call it. Kind of like the phrase for my show, I guess, is like, this is the Andrew Baker podcast. It's a podcast for an audience of one, myself. I should change that to two because, there is two of us here, right? But this is it. Um, and kind of the next part is, I'm trying to become my own hero. I'm trying to become my own monster. Again, kind of that Carl Jung duality, like embracing and channeling. And these conversations help me do that. And I think it's really interesting. I mean, I'm just at the beginning of my journey, right? I feel like I've only taken one step, but I feel so good that I've taken a step. Jam, I know you're running a coaching practice as a business. I personally, I'm a dad, uh, husband. I work a 9 to 5. I'm still, but I'm still trying to like be my best. And that's actually where like I feel like so much of my time, energy and fulfillment comes from, that I think that's actually why I hate the editing, the social media, because my perspective on it is I'm just sitting, watch a clip, blade tool, click, delete, and then, putting it out in the world. I don't feel like I'm like improving when I do that, which is what kills me about it because I'm so obsessed about just being better. So I'm curious, full-time coach, you've got your coaching business, you do this for a living. Do you ever feel like you maybe don't have time to improve on your own? I'm just curious.
No, and the answer is going to be no. And here's why. There is one investment you can make that will, I don't care how much you spend on it.
Yeah.
If you spend, there's no amount of money in yourself, it's worth every dime. So
Yeah.
it drives my wife crazy because I am on a never ending pursuit of getting better every single day. And so the most recent example is I bought a juicer. I've never juiced before in my life. It's kind of a pain, truth be told. But you know what? There's a couple things I feel compelled to juice for certain things in my body. Like I had some aches in my joints. And I guess to answer your question, brother, is when it comes to time, the most selfless thing you can do for your family, for your wife, your kids, your 9 to 5, that all the hats that you're talking about that you're wearing, the most important thing you have to do, in my opinion, is to take care of yourself, is to invest in yourself. So I understand what you're saying. And like I look at my morning routine now and it's like, wow, that is crazy substantial. I couldn't ask my clients to do what I'm doing, but for me, it just works. And it's putting me on a path to want to get better, to always seek not perfection, because I don't believe in that, but to achieve a place where I just continue to get better every single day. And that idea, I think if everybody could grab that and just say, you know what, I just want to get a little bit better today. How great is that? Because every day you're exploring something new. And the only time we decay is when we stop growing, right? There's only two stages. There's no stagnant. You are growing or you are decaying. And that is it. And so that's why I love what you said, brother. Is yes, you can run out of time. I get it, but never run out of time and investing in yourself. That is the only true statement. I have 100% know there's no amount of money that you can spend that it wouldn't be worth on yourself, time on yourself. It's so important.
Sure. And I think that's what kills me about all the little menial editing and everything, cuz like I do prioritize my sleep. Like I am so huge on prioritizing my sleep. Um and so it's like I need to be like turned over, rolled over, closing my eyes at 10 o'clock at the latest.
Mm.
so I can get up at 5:45. And so it's like, just the time it takes for me to edit and stuff, it's just like, oh, it kills me because it's like I can never get it done. Um, but yeah, so I mean, but on the topic of morning routines, I think this is a pretty interesting topic because um um a quick YouTube search and you'll get 100 videos on this, right? And I feel like there's definitely been this dichotomy, I think, um, this kind of polarizing viewpoint that I've seen a couple times where, I think I'm more similar to you. Like I'm up at 5:45, I have my gym stuff ready. I wake up, go downstairs, get dressed, grab a rock star usually as like caffeine for pre-workout, and I'm out the door. I go work out, I go to work, I shower at work, I take my cold shower there, and then I get into the room of the day. It's not much, but like I do it every single morning without fail. Then and I view those things as being positive, um, tough. They definitely make me better. But then I think I'll hear videos and maybe there's outliers, but I always hear about kind of the outlier of they can just roll out of bed whenever. They don't really have a strict time when they're getting up, but they still have like kind of a routine. It's like I do 2 cups of coffee. I put this much cream, then I do this, do I do that. So is from your perspective, is the morning routine so impactful just because it's a routine? Or do you think there does need to be something like meditation, cold shower, exercising to like get the desired results?
It's a great question to pose, and I love this whole idea because here's what I do believe. Every single person, and this is every client I work with, especially females, the most important thing that you can do is to take care of yourself first. And the reason I bring up females is 99.9% of my female clients, when they walk through the door, I'm like, all right, so tell me, kind of your daily routine. Take care of the kids, it's take care of the house, it's take care of my husband, it's take care of the job, it's take care. And they list off everything. And I go, well, what about yourself? And that answer never comes, brother. That's the sad part, is it never gets to that. And I say, look, you're being selfish. Okay, that doesn't feel good to hear, right? Coming from your coach straight out of the gate is you're being selfish. They're like, I'm not being selfish. Look how selfless I'm being. Like, look, if you don't take care of yourself, there's a shelf life on how long you're going to be able to perform at this. So, to answer your question, in terms of whether it's in the morning or whenever, what I would tell everyone is take care of 3 things. If you take care of 3 things every single day, your mind, your body, and your soul or your spirit. If you do that, and I don't care if it's for 5 minutes a day, it's for 20 minutes a day, it's for an hour a day, but that's the only thing I tell anyone that's listening is like in the morning, I just want you to quickly, for the mind, brain game, something to activate your brain, read a book, whatever, then work out or move the body, stretch, whatever for your body, just enough to get it activated. And then lastly, your soul. For me, it's meditation. It could be reading the Bible. It could be going for a hike. I really don't care. But those 3 things, once you check off those boxes, the rest of your day will just go better because that's what our body needs. So I used to have a really crazy, like, wake up at 4 o'clock and I was like going nuts with it. But like you said, and there's a book, man, on sleep, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker.
Yeah.
He changed my entire pattern because he's like, look, if you're not getting 7 to 8 and preferably 8 hours of sleep a night, you are doing irreparable damage that you can never get back. When I heard that, brother, I shifted so much of my morning. And so I may not be getting as much done in a day as I used to, quote unquote. But what I found is getting that sleep, then taking care of those 3 things, I'm able to operate much more efficiently in a shorter window of time, and my body's rested. Therefore, I'm more operating at a much higher level.
The moment you said, especially with females, my mind went straight to mothers. And
Mm,
I kind of felt like that's exactly where you were taking that. What kind of, what kind of a difference do you see in your female clients after they do start taking care of themselves?
radical.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure it is. And I think about this actually quite often. So my wife and I, we have a 2-year old. He's 2 years and what, 4 months, 3 months. She is 33 weeks pregnant this Saturday with our second boy. Um, but her and I have this conversation a lot of we have friends, family members, acquaintances, where the wife, the mother, their sole identity and the only thing they think about is caretaking. Now, I understand that that may just be the thing that brings them fulfillment, or at least that's what they may say. But I think to your point, like at some level, like you just need to rest, you need to recover, you need to struggle in a different way, right? You need to go exercise, meditate, sauna, hell, even if it's a massage, whatever. So my wife and I talk about this quite often. So I'm curious. Yeah, so I'm curious, like radical change. What does that mean? What are, if there are maybe any examples off the top of your head? Like I would love to hear them.
1,000%. So immediately when they take care of themselves, they immediately become a better mother. They hate when I say it, but I'm like, watch it. Because when you are being dragged around by one, two, 10 kids, I don't care how many it is, you are getting worn down. It's just the way it goes. So if
Yeah,
you're not taking care of yourself first, there's just you're getting knocked down a little bit each time. But every time you take care of yourself, you fill that bucket. Now you show up as a better mother, a better spouse, a better lover. I mean, literally the entire thing changes. And so it's so funny if you just reprioritize that one thing. I'm going to take care of me first. And the best analogy, people probably heard it, when you're on the airplane, do you put your mask on your child first or do you put it on yourself first? Put it on yourself first, right? Why? Because if you don't, and you can't help your child. And it's so crazy, brother, because as wonderful as kids are, and I speak from being the maternal one in my relationship. And if my wife is here, we're very open about this. I am definitely the maternal one. But I know how it feels when you're getting up, taking care of the kids, you're changing all the diapers. I understand you need to take care of your body even more at that point, not less. And so it's just the shift is so profound when you see it that I you just have to see it. Their confidence goes up. They don't lose themselves as often. That's the one thing I dislike about when kiddos go away, where they start to become teenagers of their own person, where they don't need mom as much and the mom starts they've lost themselves because they've invested so much into this human being. That's why I want them to always have that piece of them.
mm,
Never forget to take care of yourself. It's literally one of the biggest things I always coach on.
yeah. So, I mean, this really hits home for me. Mainly because I want my wife to obviously be the happiest, healthiest, strongest, most enduring, tough self that she wants to be. So you kind of talked about like getting lost, and like I've definitely been there where like I caught myself getting so incredibly complacent, and complacent not in the fact of like I wasn't doing anything, but to your point, it wasn't taking care of myself, right? So as a spouse, if I is there a world in which I'm the husband and I see my wife kind of teetering, maybe starting to go down that track? What can I do as her husband to like help her? Like I don't want to see my spouse hit rock bottom before she realizes something's got to give. Like I want to bring this up. I want to help her. I don't want to see her at rock bottom. I want to help her, I want to catch her on her way down. How do you think spouses can approach their husbands or wives um mid falling?
So here's the easiest way. It's not by saying I'm seeing X. this is what we're going to do to fix it, right? That's like the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, go for yeah.
Yeah, like I
That's what they pay you to do. Come on now.
so first thing is gain some permission from them to say, "Hey, I want to have an honest conversation about what we're trying to accomplish as a family, as a couple, whatever that looks like, right? And I want to have permission to speak freely. Are you up for that? Yeah, of course." And you reaffirm the fact that how much they matter to you because again, that's important that they feel recognized for all the efforts that they've done. The last thing they want to is you're losing yourself. Meanwhile, the entire thing they've been doing is taking care of your family.
Yeah.
So, especially in the world that you live in, A, you like to read, B, you're doing the podcast. So you're surrounded by these ideas. And you can say, I'd love to have a candid conversation with each other and talk about our goals. And that's where you say, I had this fascinating conversation around, and then you get into it. Spouses losing their way with each other, or females not, losing themselves because of the kids. And when you do it, you're no longer pointing the finger at them to say, you're, you don't want to do that. You just want to say, I want to make sure we stay ahead of this. And I want to support you in any way, shape, or form that I can because you are my world. You are my rock. You are our family's rock, which is the truth, by the way, right?
Yes.
These, partners, I'll say, but in this example, these spouses, these females, in our examples, they're the rock of the family. So the last thing we can have is that rock to start getting chipped away by not taking care of themselves, by not allowing themselves this time. And so you just say, I'm here for any amount of support that I can provide and I am going to be on that journey with you. And then you choose whatever that is, eating right, going for exercise, taking care of the baby so that she can do that, whatever that looks like, and watch what happens. Because just like all of us, endorphins fire. Now we're starting to feel better about ourselves, and all these positive hormones go, and now it becomes easier and easier.
I mean, I love that. Um, how many years have you been married, JM?
I am working on 17 coming up.
I feel like I can tell. Wise guy, right? I wish I could go back like 3.5 years and teach younger me how to communicate, right? Still far from perfect, but I mean, leaps and bounds. Um, and those can be tough conversations. I
Hmm.
feel like. I feel like my wife has had them with me. I've had them with her. And I think it's something so interesting about it. Um, my wife is so incredible. She's so much more willing, and I think she's, I'm always so fearful of how the conversation is going to end, and I think my wife just says to hell with it. Like this needs to be communicated. So she's incredible for that. I remember one of the first conversations she had with me, where she kind of told me, she's like, "Listen, like you've kind of stopped going to the gym. You're just kind of moping around. Like, what's going on? Like, I love you. Let's talk about it." And that allowed me as a spouse, it actually allowed me to really think about what was going on. Because I think to that point, I had either voluntarily neglected all the nonsense that was building up, or I just like, or I wouldn't allow myself to see it, which pretty much the same thing, right? So I think it's incredible when couples do that. Um, Coming out of that conversation, kind of back to the fear of having that conversation, I came out with so much love for my wife and appreciation. This may just be because of how I interpreted it, but I interpreted that conversation as, babe, I know you can be more, do more. I know you want to be more. And I just want to support you and love you and help you reach your best self. And and that gave, it's just incredible, that honesty. It's absolutely insane what honesty can do to two people. And we use the word partner. Like, yeah, my wife is my wife, but she's also my partner. And I think that word is really, the longer we're married, the more we really love that word as a couple. Like, we are partners together, working towards a cause, raising our kids, raising our family. So it's just incredible what honesty can do in that situation.
Well, it's funny if you ever ask yourself, would you ever want your wife to lie to you? The answer is
No,
no, unequivocally no,
no,
absolutely not. So if they're not having that conversation with you, technically they are, right?
no,
And by the way, if you say that to them, same thing. And what's remarkable, Andrew, about this, what I will say is, yeah, I've been married 17 years. However, I also was separated for almost a year. I almost lost my entire marriage and my beautiful family because of a lack of self-awareness, not being pleased with where I was in the career, not pleased in it was the company at the time, and but that wasn't the reason. That was just a byproduct, and so I didn't know any of this stuff until I almost lost it. And so part of my mission and purpose is I don't want amazing couples to not have that. But here's the facts. We weren't really taught how to have these great relationships. And I'll give you my best example from my vantage point. My parents were married for 51 years, and they would have been married longer had I not lost my dad recently. But they were married 51 years. I've seen them have zero point 0 fights. That was how I thought a great relationship went. My wife grew up in a very, well, it's an Asian household, and they fight a little bit more than
confrontational, a little bit more. Yeah, sure.
and so we came in, and when we were fighting, I'm like, "The world's ending." To her, that was, like, normal.
It's
When I'm
progress. Yeah,
Yeah, when I'm shutting down, she's like, "What the heck?" He doesn't care. And I guess the point is when we were able to get real honest with each other and just, like you said, partner, we call it teammates so often. I'm like, you're
yeah.
my team, you're my partner, you're my everything. There's no breaking us, right? Only you and I can make that choice. Nobody outside can do that to us. But that wasn't the case early in our relationship. So this is a subject, man. I am deeply passionate about it because I watch so many couples that just don't know until it's almost too late. And guess what? Just so we're clear, a healthy, good relationship is a lot of work. Just like a healthy, good, to work out. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to work at it to look good. That's the same for a relationship. So if it's just gliding along and you think it's easy street, it's probably not that healthy, truth be told. You're going to have some bumps and bruises, but that's your partner.
I mean, what an allegory for life, right? It's a little bit of a, yeah. It was floating. It floats around. I feel like it comes up every year or two. The choose your hard. Um, you can either have, you know, relationship. Hey, you can have the hard conversation now, or you can have hard, bitter, and remorse for the next 10 years, right? Hard workout this morning, or the hard, even if you don't go to the absolute end of disease, like just the inability to move, the hard of not being strong, the hard of going to help a buddy move and you can barely lift boxes, right? It's kind of the choose your hard, like, hey, have the hard conversation now, um instead of the hard, bitter, and remorse later on. I'm really curious. So I know you do a lot of business consulting. I know we're kind of flipping this on its end, relationships with business. But I'm curious, because this is something that I personally struggle with quite a bit. Is my wife and I have gotten to the point where I think we've gotten to a point where we feel comfortable being honest. I do not feel comfortable being honest in the workplace.
Hmm.
Um, Even on LinkedIn, for fear of some type of whatever. I'll see, I'll kind of scroll through LinkedIn and see something that's just so unequivocally wrong, at least in my opinion, right? I may just be a dumbass, but I just it's like, oh my gosh, my wife has taught me I can be honest, and it's like, oh, it's so freeing and so amazing. But I don't feel that I can really be honest at all at work, even a little bit, because it's my livelihood on the line. Um, do you do any work in that arena?
Oh, 1,000. The first chapter of my book is vulnerability. Okay, of the first book, excuse me. So 100%. Let me make sure I get this very clear. If you're not being honest, you're not being authentic. If you're not being authentic, you are not attractive, and you're not showing up as your best self. Now, according to Gallup, 71% of the workforce is currently dissatisfied and disengaged in their work. And the number one reason is because they don't feel appreciated, recognition. I think number three is lack of belief in senior leadership. My point in saying that culture is four, I believe, and I'm missing the second one, but it does. Compensation comes in at five. But the reason I bring this up, if you don't feel safe to be honest, you can't show up and be the best employee. You just can't, because the best version of you is authentic. It's not putting on a mask and looking a certain way. It's truly being the Andrew that the world deserves to see. So if the lack of feeling safe, to be honest, because I understand it's your livelihood, you don't want to lose it. But the truth is, you would be well received if you were your authentic self. And if you're not, it's not the right place for you, brother. It's just
Mm,
not. I'm not saying your workplace or LinkedIn or whatever. I'm not saying
sure.
that's the case. But what I am saying is, and I went through, again, I will wear it. My second company was awful, 6 years of awfulness, hell. But once I found that true authenticity, once I showed up as me, we grew exponentially faster because I was showing up as me. I was attracting the people that wanted to be a part of me, that wanted to grow in the culture that we had developed. So it's really important, brother, and this is such a big subject, and it's one of my favorites because I want everybody to show up as themselves, because A, it's less work, you have a heck of a lot more energy, people are attracted to it. So I hope you're able to find that honesty, and just know that, again, we go back, you talked about Gary Vee. If your intentions are pure, i.e., you want to be the best employee, you want to hit your goals, you want whatever that is, if your intentions are pure, and I've spent enough time with you to know this is not a bad person. This is a very good person. In fact, he wants to better the world. Then be authentic, be yourself, be honest, and that will shine through. Your intentions will shine through far better than trying to mask it a certain way.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, Jan. Thank you for the kind words. Yeah, it's. I feel like my immediate team, my manager, the best manager I've ever had, my immediate team members. I think we've gotten. I feel pretty safe with them. It just kind of feels like everyone else.
Mhm.
It's just like everyone outside of this is. Oh. Um, and then again, like this may just be like a pet peeve thing, but it's like, and I guess let me ask you, like, we're we're social animals, right? I think pretty much everyone alive has some type of bullshit meter as to when someone is being authentic or not. Um, would you agree with that?
For sure, and you can unlock it even better. So, for instance, I used to live in this world of everyone's great. Everyone I saw, rose colored glasses, and then I would get stomped on quite often.
No.
Here's the deal, I still go in with the same everyone is great. That is my initial thought, okay? But I read people so much better because I've opened my heart truly to them. And we are energetic beings, right? We
Yeah.
have a screen in front of us, but I can still feel energy just looking into your eyes, watching what you're saying, listening to your tone. And so if you're not being truthful, 100% you feel it. You know it. You may not want to be aware of it sometimes, and you're like, I don't want to feel that way, but it's just true. And so you're right, 100%. It's a long answer to say
No.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, but it is something, it's a skill that's learned when you truly open your heart and you're willing to be in energy with someone else. You know when they're being truthful and when they're not. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel great when they're not, but guess what? That's not on you. You can only control your behavior and being authentic to yourself. You can't control others as much as we may want and try to help them. That's their journey, man. It's not yours.
Uh, when and how do you think people learn the skill of how to be authentic without pissing in anyone's Cheerios? Because I think, I think this is actually probably what I run into most is I sometimes get too emotional about what I'm hearing, what I'm reading, what I'm seeing, and I then lack the tact to actually be able to address that thing. And I mentioned LinkedIn because my personal opinion, LinkedIn is by far the most fake of all the social media platforms. And so it just like I can't even go on. I go on to message with people and connect, and that's about it. But it's just like the number of posts. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like this did not happen, dude. Like it's just I'm getting all worked up about it right now. So like how do you so I mean authenticity, like I totally agree with that. Where do you think people can learn the art of communicating that authenticity without while minimizing, and I'm saying minimizing very very intentionally because you're never not going to piss anyone off. So how do you think people learn to communicate authentically while minimizing the fallout, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you may or may not like this answer, but my opinion is when you truly accept yourself, your flaws, you you first, right? No one else. Forget all the guy that's posting all the BS, okay?
Sure.
Because you know that's there. But what does that have to do with you and your emotions and what you're feeling? And if you're able to observe, let's just take yourself out of it for a second. This
Yeah.
crazy dialogue that goes on inside our head, right? Because it
Sure.
happens all the time.
Sure.
If you're able to remove yourself and just go, oh, that's interesting, and just leave it at that. It has no bearing on me. It's not hurting me. Even if
Absolutely.
someone's attacking me, literally attacking me, are they attacking me or are they actually talking down to me because they feel crappy about themselves?
Sure.
And you know that answer every single time. They don't feel good about themselves. So I actually feel, and actually, you talked about Gary Vee, he talks about this. I feel empathy and pain for those people when they have to shun or this whole woke culture right now. I feel so bad for these people. I'm like, what what kind of pain are you in right now that you are judging, canceling someone else's thought or opinion? Your opinion is just that. My opinion is just that. It's mine. It doesn't make it factual or right. It's just mine. And I will have a complete polarizing, polar different opinion with someone, especially my sister is a good example. We are opposite in so many ways, but I respect her. So I will listen to her. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with her. Let's be clear. But I respect her. And then I hear her. Then I say my piece. Now, even if she attacks that, I say, you know what? That's cool. That's your opinion. So it's really a matter of allowing yourself not to feel that it's a judgment, a thing about me, because it's never about that. It's always their journey. We just get so caught up in ego. If you can remove yourself from that ego, it all goes away. And I'm not saying it's easy, right? When we get
Oh, sure.
emotional, man, we want to attack, man, especially my teammate, my partner. Oh, she knows how to push my buttons better than anybody. That is when I have to be this is why meditation is so important for me is literally for that, is to be able to be like, I want to respond. I don't want to react. I love this woman. What do I want out of this interaction? I want to be able to love her and hug her, and so whatever she says, that is just her thoughts. It's just her opinion. Cool, no problem. And then I can respond in whatever hopefully tactful way at that point.
This idea of authenticity is, especially kind of as I enter the podcasting game a little bit, as I venture and explore, it's been a real eye opener for me as to the flaws, and actually beyond that, the insecurities I have about those flaws. But I
Mhm.
think if you study, you know, I mean, Joe Rogan, come on, like you can't talk about podcasting without talking about Joe Rogan. I think he's probably a perfect example. Like, homie's got more viewership than like CNN, ABC, Fox, like all of them almost combined. And I think what gives him that much, like, what gives him so much popularity is his authenticity. And that's actually, I toyed around with a couple different names for the podcast. Like one name that I had actually settled on, changed the name, changed the logo. It was the Becoming Podcast, because so
Mm.
much of what I talk about is about becoming. But I actually had some colleagues of mine tell me, like, no, man, like, own it. And that's really like what the line of, like, hey, this is a podcast for an audience of one. It's almost kind of my mission statement of authenticity. Because I think my first couple interviews, like, I even noticed that I was, and I still catch myself doing it and I try not to act on it, but I still kind of hear this, okay, uh is someone listening to this, what would an audience want to ask, what and I just kind of get caught up, like, what would this pretend audience want to hear? It's like, no, fuck that. What do I want to talk about? What do I want to ask from this amazing, interesting person that I'm you know digitally sitting across from? And so, I think that's why I've just owned the Andrew Baker podcast as kind of a declaration of, like, this is my podcast. If you and I are the only people that ever get value from this conversation, then it was worth the fucking conversation. It's my show, baby. And I'm going to do what I want, like, so I think, but it's actually just owning that has been so freeing. When I decided to make that switch, oh, every conversation I've had since, I've freaking walked away with something. And it's been just this, but, and then there's also that part of me that's also like, being authentic also will get you a bigger audience, right? And I'm having a hard time disassociating with that. But yeah, I feel like if you look at all the top, whatever, in any field, it's the most authentic that are always winning, and they also seem the most happy. Like like you're gonna tell me the hosts of CNN look happy?
No,
No,
no.
they're probably not being authentic. They're being told what to say. Like, same thing with Fox. Same thing, like, whatever, you can name whatever broadcast. Like, they're probably not being authentic, and not a damn one actually legitimately looks truly happy.
No, I mean, you've said the word so many times and it's freeing. And, one of the things about why you never have to question what would an audience want to think, I go back to these books, man. It was Carnegie said it years ago on how to win friends and influence people. In order to be interesting, you have to be interested.
Yep.
And so never lose that inquisitive mind to just ask something to someone else without fluff, without trying to make it sound a certain, just ask. So often we try to make it sound a certain way, and this is why I don't do a lot of editing. This is one thing I will say, because I want the ums. If you ever listen to people talk, there are ums, there are mess ups, there's all these things. So if you take it out, it's actually a really unnatural conversation. So I like when we just go and you riff and it's like, again, I've had people say things that are outlandish on the show. So be it. That's what was truly in your heart. That's okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you wrong. Obviously, hopefully it's not offensive and hurtful to anyone. And You don't want to get canceled. That's not the point. But if your intention again is pure, I don't think you have to worry about it, man. And you do ask really cool questions. So
Well,
good job.
appreciate I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I actually I had an interview last night. Super It was probably one of my more like solemn conversations. A lot of talking about death. We talked about Carl Jung, like I've brought up already, but um I'm already feeling the nerves of talking about it like I did last night, but I'm gonna say it again. Um so I'm currently reading this book called Ordinary Men. It's actually a it's a historical nonfiction book about the 101st German Battalion in the 1930s and 40s. And it's a story about how just a very, very average group of men went on to perform the atrocities that were the Holocaust in Poland specifically, this specific battalion. And we got talking about again, kind of like Carl Jung, you have to acknowledge that like had you been in that situation in the same exact time period, everything, there is some part of you that would commit those atrocities. And like again, like I feel because I don't think a lot of people will understand it, but like I felt the nerves like I feel now. It's like people will hear that and not understand, but you know what? Like it's a philosophical kind of like thing. I'm going to talk about it because like I'm reading this book and that's kind of something I'm struggling with right now is you look back at the horrors and you think no way I would ever do that. Well, ordinary men just like you did that. So you have to acknowledge at some point like at some level there is a profoundly evil monster. And again, kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning like at some level you have to listen to that voice, not to act on it, but to let it teach you the lesson it needs to teach you. Take that lesson, channel it for good, you know? So it's like, I even feel the butterflies right now. It's like, I know people are going to hear that, and not understand. Um, but it's, uh, you know,
It happened. I mean, look,
yeah,
we can't bury it in the sand. You know what's amazing is one of the other, if you haven't read it, is Man's Search for Meaning by
Viktor
Viktor
Frankl,
Frankl.
100%.
And to look at the other side, right? The atrocities that happened to him and the fact that he was able to move past, forgive some of the worst atrocities that have ever happened. Or Mandela, another one, right?
Yeah,
This man was, in prison for 27 years. 19 of those by a guard and the prosecuting attorney that did the worst things you could do to a human being without killing him. And he invited them both to his inauguration. And they asked Mandela why. He said, because if I didn't, I'd still be in that prison cell today. And when you think of it that way, brother, A, this is all emotions, right? So to your point with these ordinary men, whether it's propaganda, emotions were pulled
yeah,
and can make people do some crazy things that you never thought possible by pulling those emotions, by, so it no one can stand on their soapbox and say I wouldn't. They don't know unless
no,
you're in that position. You just don't know. But the fact is that happened. Hopefully we recognize that so history never repeats itself,
yeah,
although it has in certain areas. But to your point, these are just ordinary people that probably were protecting their own family. What if the Gestapo had guns to their family head? If you don't do this, if you don't kill these people, we're going to kill yours. Now what?
yeah.
Now put yourself in their shoes. And we don't know. I don't know all of the ins and outs, and I have not read that book. So
Um, yeah, and I think, yeah, I hear that. And I think, one, when you were talking about Mandela, well, if you're going to acknowledge that a part of you could commit the atrocities, you also have to realize that part of you could be Mandela as well. you know,
100%.
kind of both sides of the coin. And then yeah, like we're never gonna know what happened specifically, but it's just but yeah, I mean authenticity. Like I'm reading this book. That's it's what's on my mind. And so, but it has been, it's kind of a journey. Everything, it's just that's a lot of conversation to say that being authentic, like even now, like after I've said all that, it's like, whew, I did it. I think we explained it enough. It's tough to think about, but JM,
Got it out. I love that. You got it out. That's my favorite part, right? And I didn't mean to cut you off, and I
no,
will be quiet. But
no,
anytime you have something on your brain, speaking about it or writing even more effective, because that paper will never judge you, right? If you have something crazy going on in your brain, anything, I don't care, write about it. Because that paper has never told me I'm brilliant. It's never told me I'm stupid. It's never told me I'm crazy. It doesn't say anything. It just took the ink that I put onto it. It's
yeah,
the best form of therapy anybody can get.
yeah. Well, JM, dude, this has been fun. I think we could go on forever, but where can people find you? Where can they, book a session with you, buy your book, learn more about you?
Awesome. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And it was an amazing conversation. You are an incredible host. Let's go win.com is my website. Let's Go Win podcast. The book is available on Amazon or on my website. And then Let's Go Win 365 on any social media platform. And truly, I hope somebody connects with me from this podcast, just if nothing else, to talk and just connect with another human being, because that is genuine connection that I love. And just like I was able to do with you today, it was awesome.
Yeah. JM, thank you, sir.
Thank you.